Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we are talking about all things chicken coop. We're going to talk about how to pick the right coop and what you're looking for in a coop, what size you need your coop, all things coop. Let's get started. The first thing we need to define is, what is a chicken coop? A chicken coop is the place where your flock is going to sleep at night. It is not the place that they spend their whole day, it's just the place where they sleep. The basic things that every chicken coop needs to have are perches or roosting bars, whatever you want to call them. That is what your chickens are going to sleep on. Chickens do not sleep on the ground, they sleep as high as they can possibly get, but whatever is realistic in your chicken coop. You want roosting bars for them to perch and hold and sleep at night. That is how they do it, and that is how they want to do it. The other thing that they need to have are nest boxes for them to lay eggs in, because you want them laying eggs in the coop because it makes your life a lot more convenient when you can know where to get your eggs from. One thing that is super important in chicken coops is ventilation. They need to have lots of ventilation. They need to have a nice big window or something like that covered to keep them safe, because chicken poop and chickens in general are kind of gross, and they need lots of airflow so that they stay healthy with their respiratory system and it doesn't build up smell, and it just keeps them a lot happier. So ventilation is extremely important in a chicken coop. It's probably the most important thing for the health of your chickens. Different places will need different levels of ventilation to a certain extent, but all chickens, all the time, anywhere, need really good coop ventilation. Some things you don't want to have in your chicken coop are food and water. They belong outside the chicken coop. Maybe water under certain circumstances could be in the coop, but generally speaking, food and water should be in the run or wherever it is that your chickens spend their day, because we don't want to attract pests like rats or mice or anything else that would try and find a way into your coop to eat the food you've left in there. So food does not belong in the chicken coop. Make sure your chickens eat outside the coop. And that brings us to another feature of your chicken coop. The whole point of a chicken coop is to keep your chickens safe at nighttime while they sleep, when they're at their most vulnerable. So if you live somewhere that has a high level of predators that could come and get your chickens, you need to be very careful when you buy your coop that it is very secure for your chickens, that you can shut all the doors, that the wire is strong and there aren't any gaps where something like a ferret can sneak in, because they can sneak through some pretty small holes. So you've got to keep that in mind when you're picking your coop. So that brings us to what size chicken coop do you need? Now you might be thinking to yourself, and this is a common thought, I'm only going to have 5 chickens, so I only need a coop that's big enough for 5 chickens. And you'll be right for a few months, but chicken math is a real thing. Within a period of time, your 5 chickens are going to turn into 10 chickens, they're going to turn into 15 chickens. So always buy the biggest coop that you can at the time. It's going to save you money and time and heartache later. Get the biggest coop that you can. Which brings us to sizes of chicken coops and what the manufacturer says and what is real in life. So a lot of small chicken coops are coming out now, and there's nothing wrong with them. They can be quite useful, but whatever number of birds that they say they can fit, halve that number. This is a great example here. It is a fantastic little chicken coop and I really like it. It has some excellent features and I use it quite a bit. I don't use it for my chickens to live in permanently, and there's a reason for that. The reason is it is tiny. Now, this is sold to say you can fit maybe 4 or 5 chickens in it. It would fit 2 chickens at a push, it would fit 2 chickens. I use it for 1 chicken if they need to be isolated from the flock, or if they're gonna hatch chicks and the mama and her babies can go in there, and it's fantastic for that purpose. It is not fantastic as an all the time coop unless you only have 2 chickens, and chicken math, you will not only have 2 chickens for very long, or maybe if you have very small chickens like bantams, maybe 4 could fit in there quite happily. So just keep that in mind when you're looking at all of the options available to you. Whatever it says it can fit, it can't. Halve that number, maybe it's only 1/3 of that number. If you can get a larger coop, and I highly recommend getting a larger coop, the best sort of coop to get is one that you can walk into and you can stand up inside the coop. And they can be more expensive, but it is absolutely worth it. It makes keeping your coop clean, it makes taking care of your flock so much easier because you just walk in there, you can see your birds, you can do any maintenance or hygiene related tasks. You're not bending and stretching and reaching. It's just very convenient. So I would absolutely recommend you get a walk-in stand-up chicken coop. They're just worth their weight in gold. Which brings us to, where do you put your chicken coop in your yard? Now, chickens are much more sensitive to heat than they are to cold. They're really great at keeping warm. They are not so great at keeping cool. So you want to put your coop, if possible, in a shady location with really good airflow and ventilation around it, because they're going to suffer a lot more in the summertime than they are in the winter. So think about where you're going to put your coop in your yard with that in mind. I have 2 different sorts of big stand-up coops that my flock likes to use, because chicken math is a real thing and I ended up having to get 2. So, you know, get big ones and then you don't have to have 2 coops like me. This coop behind me has a wooden floor, and the other coop that my chickens use has a dirt floor. So that means I manage them a little bit differently when it comes to the bedding and how I clean and how frequently I clean the bedding. In both coops, I use wood shavings. I think wood shavings are the best thing to use as bedding because it is nice and dry and absorbent, and that really helps with keeping down the smell, because chickens do smell. They're not amazing in that regard. So in the one with the dirt floor, I use a deep litter method, which is where I put in a huge amount of wood shavings, and I stir that around every week at least, and I add new wood shavings on top when it needs it, and about 3 or 4 times a year I clear the whole lot out and put in new wood shavings. In this coop here, which has a floor and a little bit of a different setup as to where the chickens perch, I have a plastic liner underneath their perch, and I've got wood shavings on top of that. So when I need to clean that out, which is a lot more frequently than the deep bedding coop, I can just roll the plastic liner up and biff out the shavings, put it back, and it's all ready to go with fresh shavings on the top. So those are some little tips on keeping things hygienic in your coop. The other thing I like to do is line my nest boxes with a feed sack. So I line them, I pop the bedding into them, and that means that I can clean them up nice and easily if an egg breaks in them. If a chicken decides to sleep in there at night and poop, I can just lift it up, biff it out, pop it back in, and it's good to go. Let's talk about nest boxes in your coop. You want to have some, is always good. You don't usually need as many as you think you do. About 2 nest boxes to 5 to 7 hens is absolutely fine, because they're probably all going to lay in the same one anyway and argue about who gets to use it first. So make sure you have more than one so they have choices, but they're probably just going to use the same one anyway. It's very normal. Speaking of nest boxes, I like to always keep fake eggs in my nest boxes, and I have two reasons for that. The first reason is it helps my chickens to know that they should lay in those nest boxes, that they are a desirable place to lay. Chickens they like to copy each other, and they like to sort of one-up each other. So they all like to lay in one nest box usually. So if there are eggs there all the time, they're like, hey, this is a great place to lay. I'm gonna lay my eggs there too. The other reason I like to use the fake eggs is chickens will often, they're very curious. So they will often come along and they will peck at anything, but they will peck at their eggs. And that might mean they break an egg, and then they will learn that breaking eggs is something they can do, and inside an egg is delicious food. And they will start to eat their eggs. You definitely don't want that to happen. So with the fake eggs in the nest box, they are more likely going to peck on the fake egg than real eggs. They're never going to break the fake eggs, so they give up pecking eggs, and you prevent that problem from happening in the first place. The other thing I always keep in my coop is a good pair of gloves. And the reason I do that is when I pop out to the coop to do a quick chore, there might be a mess. Nest box is full of poop because someone decided to sleep in it. An egg has broken. Chickens can be pretty grubby creatures, so a good pair of gloves in your coop all the time. You can grab your gloves, clean up the mess straight away. You don't have to go looking for your gloves. They're just there. So always keep a pair of gloves in your chicken coop, on a ledge, put a hook in for them, whatever works, but keep gloves in your coop. So those are my chicken coop hints and tips. I hope that has been helpful to you. I have had to learn some of these lessons the hard way, so I hope this has helped you avoid some of the mistakes that I have made. I would really love to hear about what kind of chicken coops you have and what works for you where you are. Thanks for watching.